misbehave, we can edit that out of the video, so don't worry about that. That won't be in there. So, well, everybody, welcome. My name is Ron Meyers. I work at St. Andrew's Village, which is Presbyterian Senior Living as well, but over in Indiana, PA. So I'm with Cura Hospitality. I work with Jeff and Paul and Robert and the guys all from Cura. So I love being here. I recognize a lot of faces from the bourbon tasting we did last month, so I appreciate that. That's a good thing. That was a fun night. I enjoyed that a lot. So hopefully we're gonna have some fun as well tonight. Now at that bourbon tasting, a lot of people were talking about vodka and gin that they were fans of. So hence we're doing a vodka, gin, and a little bit of herbal liqueurs here tonight. So based on your comments and feedback, I really appreciate that. I know Paul does. We can plan future events and continue to have some fun with this. So I know I enjoyed doing it. I thank Paul for having me, and I thank the turnout. The turnout is great tonight. So thank you very, very much. So you do a little bit of the tables. You got a lot of stuff on your tables. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So I'll kind of walk through what everything is, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it. So we are here talking about gin and vodka and the kind of the art of the cocktail. So tonight we're going to be making two cocktails. So we're going to be making the Negroni and the Vesper. The liquors are there as well on your placemat. Each person in attendance tonight is also getting a cocktail kit. So everybody has at their seat your shaker. Okay, this is the heart of the cocktail right here. Okay, so this is called the cobbler shaker. This is the design of it is a three-piece. So there's two kinds of shakers. There's this. I don't know if you ever saw a bartender. They have a glass and they put it on top and they shake it. That's called the Boston shaker. This is the cobbler with the three pieces. So you have your base, you have your lid that fits securely in there, and there's also a built-in strainer. If you see the holes there, and then a lid to capture that. So when you get everything in there, you can shake it up real good, stir it up. It's not going to spill. Everything's self-contained. So it's a real nice unit. So this is your shaker. So we'll be using this tonight. So you're all going to be making your own cocktails with us. So. And then also, everybody has a cocktail spoon at their seat as well. So this is actually the name of it, the cocktail spoon. It's designed that way, and coincidentally, it fits very well into your cocktail shaker. And that's where we're using this to make one of the cocktails as well. So you have that at your seat. Now, also it contained within your kit, and so that's the only thing at your seat. But as you leave, please don't forget, and we'll try to remind you, over on the table over there, there's a stack of black bags. That holds your entire kit, okay? And within there, just to let everybody know, this is called a jigger. That's the actual term of it. So there's 1 ounce measure on top and a 2 ounce measure on the bottom. So you can properly measure your liquors. There's also, you get 2 pourers. So we actually use them to pour. So 2 pourers for your bottles. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. And a bottle opener. So this is a great little tool. It looks simple, but I think we all have that little bottle opener with a magnet sticking on our refrigerator that you can't open a bottle with. This thing you can get a hold of and really crack open a bottle. So this is a great beer and soda bottle opener there. So once again, these are all contained within the black bags over there. So everybody in attendance tonight gets one, and hopefully you'll be using it all the time to make your newfound cocktails. So, okay. So we talked about gin. So we have some gin lovers here. I think we have some gin fans. Excellent, excellent. So gin it's unique. You know, has everybody had gin here? Has anybody not tasted gin? So as we do the basic flavor profile, that piney, that juniper berry is kind of the main component of gin. That's the common part of it. But with gins, they're so unique, and what's really neat about them now is they're kind of becoming more artisan. You know, so you have the big guys, the Gordons, the Beefeaters that are synonymous with gin, the Tanquerays, but now more and more distilleries are making their own kinds of gin. We'll talk a little bit about that. So you're seeing all kind of new flavors and new techniques. So if you're a gin fan, it's a great time to be a gin fan now, because you can really explore and really try some great things. We talked at the bourbon tasting, one of the bad parts about bourbon, one of the negatives to bourbon is to get a really good bourbon, you have to age it. It has to age in a barrel. So the bourbon you make today can be fantastic, but you're not drinking it for 10 years. The gin you make today, you drink tomorrow. So that's why a lot of these new distilleries are supplementing their income with gins and vodkas and rums and things like that, because they can turn, make a profit, and really have some fun with that, and really get a name for themselves as a true distiller rather than a whiskey or bourbon distillery. So I encourage you, as you go around the local distilleries or anything, try their gins, and the rums and their vodkas, because they're really doing some neat things. What makes gin kind of so flexible is how it's made. So how it's made is gin generally starts with a neutral grain spirit. I'm going to say that a lot tonight. Neutral grain spirit. So basically it's wheat or rye or potatoes aren't grains, but we would have potatoes and vodka can do that. Anything in neutral that can make a mash be distilled into a spirit, into ethyl alcohol. Really don't want that much flavor. We want it to be neutral because then there's two ways to make gin. There's one, the alcohol that comes off of that, the clear liquor, is then kind of macerated or infused with botanicals. Juniper berry is the main thing. That's the pine. A lot of people put, like Hendrick's gin has cucumber. I love Hendrick's because it has that freshness in it. People put rose petals and different flowers and anise and anything you want. The sky's the limit. That's why it's so flexible. So they actually let the gin soak, the liquor soak in that to pick up those flavors, and then they bottle it. The other way, the more kind of traditional way, is they install a gin box. It's actually called a gin box on the distiller. So if you're familiar with how distillation happens, there's a pot that you boil. That's what you boil the mash in. You can see the old copper pots. That's what you boil it off. Then when you boil that off, the alcohol vapors come off there because it boils at a lower temperature than water. But then usually, on most alcohols, it goes over into a condenser, that big coil, that then cools it down into a liquor. Well, for gin, right in between those two steps, they actually put a box with the botanicals, with the juniper berries, the flowers, so that hot alcohol vapor hits those, sits in there, and that's how it's infused. So then when that vapor then eventually goes to the condenser, it condenses down, and there's your gin. So two different ways. So a lot of people are experimenting with that. Even home distillers with these little 1 gallon pots can make gin. You get a little gin box, put whatever you want in there, distill your liquor, and boom, you have gin right then and there. So it's a lot of fun. So if you are interested in that, it's very easy. What other people are doing as well, I'll take it another step. Probably the predominant neutral grain spirit that is used for gin is made with rye, the grain rye. We tasted rye bourbon, so you think of rye bread, that kind of spiciness, that lends itself well to gin. So if you can find a rye vodka, which like Belvedere vodka, that's a famous vodka, that's rye. Sobieski vodka, that's rye. You can just take that vodka, soak it in some flowers and some juniper berries, and boom, you got gin. So if you want to mess around, have some fun on a weekend, a snowy weekend, you can do whatever you want. So that's why gin is really just exploding, and people are kind of finding their own little niche of what they like, there. So that's the fun about gin. And gin also lends itself to the cocktail very well because it does have those wonderful flavors, those wonderful botanicals that no other alcohol can replicate. Gin is gin. There's nothing similar to it, which is great, which makes it so great. One more thing we'll talk a little bit about. A lot of people ask, so we're going to be using Gordon's gin tonight. It's one of the gins, and it says dry gin. So what is dry? Versus you'll see some gin, it just says distilled gin, or it'll just say gin. Well, it's kind of important because if you see dry gin, that means this is a neutral grain spirit that was infused with botanicals, and that's it. There weren't any additional flavorings added. No sweetness, no fruit juice, nothing like that. Now, anybody can do that, but then they can't call it dry. So if you're looking for a more traditional gin, look for the dry. And that's kind of what, Tanquerays, all those are dry, traditional gins. So, okay.
A question.
Yes, sir.
I have a bottle of gin in my very extensive liquor cabinet.
Okay.
And it's about probably 30 years old, and it's about a third full. Is that still good?
It is, yes. And it's good, but it's not the same. So alcohol is so high in alcohol, bacteria can't really live in it. So as long as it's sealed and nothing could literally crawl into it, it's good. What happens is alcohol, the vapors can escape. They call it the angel share because the alcohol evaporates at room temperature. So over that many years, now, did somebody drink that level or did it go down automatically?
No, we drank
okay.
at that point.
Okay.
20 years old.
Okay, so it'll actually, now this is good or bad depending on who you are, it'll actually be more mellow. So that 80 or 90 proof gin is probably like 60 to 70% now because that alcohol has gone off. So it's a much more mellow flavor. That's why like a lot of the whiskeys and things like that, if even though they're 20 years old in the barrel, if they can age in the bottle even more, it just mellows them out, makes them more balanced. So you're not going to get that punch of gin, which could be a good thing. So I encourage you to drink it. I encourage you to try it. As long as it's clear. If you pour it and it's cloudy or something like that, I'd stay away from it. But if it's clear, go for it. Yep. Yes, sir.
What's the relationship with gin and malaria?
I have no idea. I've never heard that. What is it?
Well,
What is the relationship?
I was always told that the reason that the Brits drank gin was because they found out in India that the berry that's in the gin, quinine.
Okay.
Cuts
It's the quinine.
I never knew that.
Tonic in the
Tonic.
mix.
I'd never heard that before.
It's a tonic. That's a tonic, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gin and tonic or the gin? The
Not
gin and
the
tonic is
gin, it's the
traditional.
tonic.
The tonic, okay.
whatever the quinines is.
Quinine's and tonic. I know they call it quinine water is what
Yeah,
tonic water
that's
is.
what it is.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. I've never heard that before. I've never heard that relationship there.
Yep.
Another reason to drink. If you ever get malaria, have yourself a cocktail. That's interesting.
Yeah, the
That's
tonic.
the only reason to drink is for the.
He said, "What do I know the correlation between gin and malaria? The disease malaria." And I truly didn't. And they're saying that the quinine, it's basically the gin and tonic cocktail. The quinine that's in the tonic water, that's what helps with the
They give
malaria.
you quinine pills when you go to
Oh, okay.
tropical country.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Excellent. Okay, sounds good. So then, so we're going to talk. So that's kind of the gin. We'll talk a little bit more about gin here, and then vodka as well. I know there's some vodka fans here, so I wanted to hit a little bit on vodka. Vodka's tough. There's not much to vodka. You know, some people say, the cleaner a vodka is, the better it is. I know some people disagree with that, me included. I like to have a little bit of flavor in my vodka. But nowadays, most vodka, like Grey Goose is the #1 selling vodka, you can't taste it. It's completely neutral. And people like that. It's up to your own. It's hey, whatever you like. But so there's not much to discuss about vodka, other than it's a great way to kind of boost your cocktail, add a little bit of spirits to it. Because a lot of these, the cocktails we're making here are made with, even though like gin is very botanical based, a lot of the mixers we're adding with it are botanical and herb based as well. So you don't want that to overpower, so then vodka comes in, kind of kicks that alcohol up a little bit, and makes it a more balanced cocktail. So there, and plus the basic structure of gin is vodka, a neutral grain spirits. That's kind of the correlation between those two there. So one thing, I know I'm talking a lot here, and we'll get to tasting here. So we're going to taste one right away. This middle glass here in the middle, it's a yellow liquor. Don't taste it quite yet. So everybody's tasted gin here. It's called a Lancaster. It's actually made in Lancaster, PA. It's called a rested gin. And this is one of the newfangled gins they're making these days. It's actually an aged gin. Now it's not aged 10, 12, 20 years like a bourbon or a scotch. That's why they call it more rested. But it's actually rested for a couple weeks, couple months, depending on the distillery, in oak barrels. So to impart, because think gin, the great botanical flavors, now add vanilla, caramel, butterscotch, those kind of oaky flavors that you get, that we discussed last time at the bourbon tasting, they're going to impart here. And something really neat, I'm kind of excited. I've never tasted a rested gin, so we're going to taste this for the first time together. So let's give it a try. Let's give it a sniff. If we remember how we tasted our bourbon, give it a sniff. So to me, that's pretty mellow for a gin. Let me taste here. I'd say definitely a harsher taste than a smell.
Like something I used to clean my
The taste gets yeah. I get the vanilla now. Like if you keep it in your tongue, if you taste the vanilla now, that alcohol is pretty hot. I don't even know what proof that is, but that was pretty potent. That's only 80 proof. So, but yeah, it kicked a little bit. But I'm getting that kind of sweetness of vanilla now on the back end. So I thought that was kind of neat. So I wanted to try something to kind of show you how the gins are developing and to look for those rested. Even the color, granted gin is crystal clear, but it's obviously picking up some flavors and some compounds from that oak that they aged it in. So that's pretty neat. Yeah. And with these, I always like to say all these liquors are available in most state stores. So nothing was special ordered. I didn't have to travel anywhere. So even like this was made in Lancaster, and a lot of these are available on the state store shelves there. So, and I have the titles listed on your placemats. So, yeah. Okay. So we ready to make a cocktail?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to get kind of geeky on you as I do. So it's not just throwing stuff in the shaker, throwing ice and going. There's a technique, just like anything. And if you think of how you make a cocktail, it's cooking. It's cooking with liquids. There's processes to cooking. There's procedures to cooking, also with the cocktail. Yeah, you can throw them all together and it'd be okay. But if you want a true cocktail, a true great experience, there is kind of a way and a method and procedures that can help you do that. And that's kind of what we're going to discuss today. So we're going to take, on the left-hand side of your placemat, the 3 liquors there. The brown one's the Carpano, that's sweet vermouth. And the middle one is your Campari. Don't pour any of these yet, okay? I'm just trying to make sure we're on the same page. So the Campari is kind of that bright red. And then going down to your left is the Gordon's, the gin, okay? So the Negroni cocktail is, the reason I picked that one, it's gin-based, and it's a great drink. 2, it's really, really wonderful as a summertime drink. So we're coming into summer, hopefully. That seems like we are. So it's a great drink to have in the summer, but it's also a really great drink to have after dinner. So you guys just had a fabulous dinner that Paul and Dante and Robert put out. It's a great time to sit down and sip a Negroni, because the Campari in particular, it's called a digestif, which is basically, it's very bitter. Has anybody ever tried Campari?
Oh, yeah.
Campari soda, that was kind of a classic drink back a couple years ago. If you want to, take just a little sip, not a lot. Take a little sip of the Campari. It's bitter, and you're going to turn your nose up at it, maybe. But it's syrupy, it's herbally, there's a little bit of sugar in it. It's the bright red one in the middle there. Yep. So some people do just drink this on the rocks after dinner, because they say digestif with that herbalness kind of helps with digestion. It aids in digestion. It's not high in alcohol. So that's great. So you get that kind of syrupy sweetness, not really sweetness, but herbally. Now, picture gin added to that, okay? So that alcohol is going to kind of cut that syrupiness. It's going to add to the botanical, the herbal flavors. So it's really going to, but it's still going to be bitter. Still going to be on the bitter side. Still going to be on the, high alcohol side. So we're not quite there yet. We need something to counteract that. So you have bitter. The best way to do it is sweet. So sweet and bitter. So that's why we have sweet vermouth. So sweet vermouth is the brown. It's the Carpano. And once again, I think a lot of people have tried sweet vermouth. I bet 99% of you have tried Martini and Rossi sweet vermouth. That's the only one that most people have ever seen. This stuff is insane. It is so good. So once again, I encourage you, take a little sip of it. Just a little sip. It's the brown one, the top there. This is actually, and vermouth is a wine base. So they make it out of wine. Then they add, once again, a neutral grain spirit to kind of, they call it a fortified wine. And then they mix it with herbs, sugar, spices. So now you're getting that sweetness, you're getting that bitterness out of the Campari, you're getting the base out of the gin. So that's the Negroni. That's why it's such a great cocktail at night.
How do you spell that?
What's that?
Negroni?
Yep. N-E-G. It's on underneath your rocks glass there.
Oh, okay.
Yep. N-E-G-R-O-N-I. Yep. And the recipe's there as well. So if you forget, so it's an easy recipe. And it's kind of cool. It's the foundation of this. It came from Milano. So back in the early 1900s. Or actually in the late 1860s, and a lot of this is on the back of your placemat, so when you leave, you can take your placemat. There was a drink that was called the Americano. So it was basically the Campari, the sweet vermouth, and soda water. And they did a lemon wedge, so that was the Americano. So a lot of Americans came and drank that. Well, Count Negroni, that's his name, what's his name? I can't find his name was Count Negroni, though. I can't find his full name. But he went to a cafe, he had a bartender friend, they started talking, he said, well, why don't you make me a new drink? Let's take that soda water out, let's add some punch to it and put some gin in there. And then they said, well, let's do the orange instead of lemon, and the Negroni was born. So, kind of cool. The reason I say that is, I encourage, a lot of great cocktails have come out of that. Out of a patron sitting with their bartender friend, saying, let's try this, let's try that, I like this, I like that, and they mix around, they have fun, and boom, the great cocktails are made. So if you have a great bartender, or seek out a great bartender friend, talk to them. They're passionate about what they do. You might have a drink named after you, who knows? So yeah. So nothing's set in stone, just like cooking. Nothing's set in stone. There's not one hamburger, there's 8,000 hamburgers. There's not one cocktail, there's 8,000 cocktails. So have fun in developing those. So, okay, so now we're gonna start making some cocktails. So we'll make the Negroni. So what we're gonna do is, we could put all the liquor in the rocks glass, put ice in it, and call it a day. That's boring. We're not doing that. So what we're going to do is, and because this is one step that's not normal, but we were eating there, so take your shaker and take your top off. So make it empty and take one of your glasses of ice. So one of your glasses of ice and dump it in. Okay? And now, before you do anything else, don't put anything else in it. Put your top on without the lid. Okay? And then, in the ice that you used, strain off the water. We don't want the water in the cocktail, okay? So we're just gonna strain off the water. Okay? Now,
I need some muscle.
yeah, they get stuff on there. Squeeze it. Squeeze the shaker there. Yep.
No, why, that's just this, I don't have any ice in it yet.
You just, you squeeze it.
Not with
It's on
that
percolator.
over.
There we go.
There you go.
And I'll tell you, while we're doing this, the reason I picked this shaker, and I don't want to offend anybody, that's not my goal, but if you look at this, it's a pretty flimsy stainless steel, nothing fancy. It's the best shaker for the job. I've seen shakers that are cut crystal and stainless and sterling silver and wood and leather. They're beautiful, but they don't transfer heat. The whole purpose of this is to get all the heat out of that liquor, get it cold, get it without diluting the ice. We don't want water. We want liquor. So that's why this works so well. We'll see how well that works. So now, you got a good one there.
I got a bum shaker, I'll tell you.
Did you strain off the water?
No, not
Yeah.
yet. Can you get it?
You have your empty glass? Yeah. Yeah.
Water.
God, if you put it on straight, it helps.
See, I told you I got a bum
Sue,
one.
what'd you do to it?
I didn't do anything to it. I can't get it open, I can't get it closed.
It's on there.
And I'm
You
not
got it
having one.
My
there?
mother's not gonna make any, so
Okay, oh, we got it there. You got it. I appreciate it.
give it to her.
Okay. Yeah, you got it there? Okay.
Test it for
Okay, so estimate, I gave you enough to taste, so I gave you a little bit more than an ounce in here. So don't pour it all in. Pour like 3/4 of each of these 3 alcohols into your shaker.
In any order at all.
Any order, yep. So I'm gonna show you.
Wait a minute, what are we pouring?
The Campari, the red, the brown, and the Gordons. All the ones on the left-hand side, the 3 on the left-hand side of your placemat.
3/4.
Yep, yep, so equal parts. Okay.
3/4 each, right?
Yep, yep. The key is equal parts, so.
Okay,
Yep. So now, don't put your top on. Don't put your top on. Nope. Now we're going to talk about shaking versus stirring. We've all heard James Bond, shaken, not stirred, right?
right.
The general rule, once again, this is on your placemat. If anything if it has fruit juice, cream, eggs, some cocktails have eggs, anything opaque, you want to shake it. Because that adds air to it, it aerates it, think of whipped cream. Anything clear, like all these liquors are clear, you don't want to aerate it. It'll turn cloudy and nasty, so now you're going to use your spoon. So grab your cocktail spoon and just stir it. Give it a good stir. Put your hand on the bottom. You normally wouldn't want to do this, but you'll see how fast that gets cold. And that's what you want. That means heat is escaping. It's making your drink cold. It's really nice. So now, you did that. Now what you're going to want to do, grab one of your other ices, dump it into your rocks glass, the one on the top left. Dump it in. I know there's some water there, that's all right. Now you can put your top on in your rocks glass, your empty rocks glass on the top left. Top left of your placemat. Yep. Yep, you're basically putting ice in your glass. The top. Don't want to go that far. So you had to put all three liquors in. The Campari, the gin, and the sweet vermouth. Put those in and stir it.
And then ice without water.
Yeah. Yep. Well, if you can, it's going to be hard. But yeah, you just put it in your rocks glass there. Your rocks glass is the one on the top left. This glass here. This one here. The top. So this is basically ice and water here. I know there's water in it, but it shouldn't be. So what you did was you chilled your cocktail, and now you're going to pour that cold cocktail over fresh ice, so that it's not going to continue to dilute. That's why we did that. So now you put your top on without the big lid, or the little lid, I'm sorry, and now you just strain that cocktail into your rocks glass. And you got yourself. It's the top left of your placemat, on your placemat. The top left of your placemat. Yep. Yep, yep, yep. Yep. This is the rocks glass. Yep. Just the top left of your placemat there.
Yes.
I don't want to get too far away with the mic.
We shake this?
No, you're not going to shake it because we stirred it. This is a stirred cocktail. So you take your cap off, the tiny cap, and pour it into your glass. So you're pouring your freshly chilled Negroni into fresh ice. So now it'll be nice and chilled. It won't continue to dilute, because think of dilution. That's adding water. It's changing the flavor. We don't want that. Okay? And then I have an orange slice. Classic garnish. Throw an orange in there, and you got your Negroni.
Put the fresh ice into the cup.
Delicious.
Drain my water, and then
Well balanced.
put this out.
Still get that bitterness from the Campari. Still get that sweetness from the sweet vermouth.
And pour this out.
So if you're at home making this, obviously you're going to put a fresh scoop of ice in your shaker. Boom, big scoop of ice. You can fill this up with ice. It doesn't matter how much ice you put in. Then you put your 3 ounces of each. 1 ounce of gin, 1 ounce of Campari, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth. You're going to then grab your spoon, stir it up really good with all that ice in there, make it nice and cold, nice and chilled. Then you're going to grab your rocks glass, put some more fresh ice into that, fill it up to the top, then strain it in. Then you have a nicely prepared, well homogenized cocktail. Yes, sir?
How come some people, when they make Manhattans, just stir them and some people shake them?
Personal preference. Now, a Manhattan should be stirred because that's all like clear liquids, so it should be stirred. If they shake it, it's personal preference. It doesn't do anything else. The only thing that shaking does is it does aerate.
Gets all cloudy.
So it'll go cloudy. Like, if you give me 2 seconds here, I'll show you. Like, I'll shake this Campari up. And you'll see that nice clear red Campari. Like when I make a Kahlua and cream for somebody, a lot of people put Kahlua cream, here you go, there's your drink. That's disgusting. That doesn't work well for me. I shake that because there's cream in it, right? You want whipped cream, you want to mix that Kahlua with that cream. So when I pour it, it's like a milkshake. Because I shake it, get all that in there. See how it's like pink? It aerates it. Doesn't really change the flavor that much. I mean, you think air, there's no taste to air. So I've just added air to this. So there's a little bit of a change. But it's just general appearance. It's foamy. It doesn't look good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just icing, But yeah, so it literally is personal preference. Literally is personal preference. Yep. So. So if you feel your shaker, it's probably still cold. And that's the beauty of that. That's why these are so great. Because they just really suck the heat out, really get things cold, and that's what you want. As I didn't want to talk too much while you're making your cocktail, but the dilution is the key. That's why this whole thing is around there. Because if you pour hot liquor over your cold ice, it's going to immediately melt it. And if you don't shake it or stir it, it'll get cold. The laws of thermodynamics, they come into play. Hot's going to be cold and cold's going to be hot. So it's going to get cold, but it's going to take a longer time, and it's going to cause your ice to melt more, so more water will then be incorporated into your cocktail. How many times have we ever had a drink? It's great the first sip, the last sip it's all water. We don't want that. We want a fresh, nice, clean cocktail, and that's what this does. It makes it cold, makes it great, gets everything mixed up, makes one homogeneous solution, poured it over. That's a properly made cocktail. Okay? And one other thing I'll say, I love these martini glasses. If you've ever gone to a bar, and I'm sure we've all seen it, you ever see those fish bowls that are, you can fit your head into? I hate those because the next drink we make, we've all had martinis, we've all seen them at least, there's no ice in this drink. So it's going to get warm. Once again, laws of thermodynamics, it's going to happen. So you worked so hard to make a perfectly chilled, perfectly great cocktail, and then you pour it into a fish bowl, that unless you just drink it like a madman, you're not going to be able to enjoy it because it's going to be warm, it's not going to be great. So I love a smaller drink. So when you're with your friends, 2 great cocktails is so much better than 1. Now great, if you're at a restaurant, you're paying $15 for these things, then yeah, give me the big one. But, if you're at home with your friends, do a nice small, even this is a great size. You don't have to fill up that glass. From the first sip to the last sip, this is going to be a great cocktail. And chances are your friends are going to ask for another one. And that's what you want. Keep the night going. Have some fun, So don't fill things up. Don't get these huge glasses. There's no need for them. Yeah, they look cool, but it just doesn't work for me. That's my personal preference. But when I was managing bars, I fought that all the time because these people wanted these great glasses that looked cool, but at the end you're drinking a warm martini. I don't know about you, but I don't want that. I don't want that. So, okay. So what we're going to do now? What do you think of the Negroni? Any comments?
Okay.
Different.
I love Negroni.
Yeah, I do? Yeah. It's a great drink. And what you're seeing, you're going to see this if you any newspapers, ads, Negronis are exploding. Because now people are messing with those too. They're adding different things, they're adding different wines and things. So they were really popular in Europe. Now they've come over to pretty much New York, San Francisco, Miami, and now they're coming into the bigger cities as well. They're all over the place. Restaurants, I follow a lot of restaurants, they'll do like Negroni week, where they'll do a different Negroni every night. They'll do Negroni pairings with dinner and things like that. So they're just blowing up everywhere. So that's another reason why I wanted to do this cocktail, because you're going to see that a lot out there. So, okay. Great after dinner, or great before dinner. If you're having a cocktail party, because digestives like the Campari aid in appetite as well. So, yes ma'am.
The orange, when you put the orange in there, do you squeeze it?
I don't. Now there's two, and once again, personal preference. I like the essence of orange. And we're going to talk more about that with the Vesper, because that's a different thing. Because there's two ways to do the Negroni, and it's basically 50-50. It's one, you can just do the peel. That one I would squeeze, because that expresses just the oil.
Right.
That gives the essence, is what I want. If I squeeze that, then I'm going to be squeezing orange juice into it. And I think that's just too much. I don't want that. I just want that citrus, kind of that citrus overtone. So that's why I just put it in there, because with the whole slice, it's going to come. The essence is going to come. I don't need to squeeze it or anything like that. But you'll see with the Vesper, we are going to squeeze the lemon zest to get that oil exposed. That's a great question. Great question about that. Yep. Yes, sir.
What's the shelf life of vermouth?
It depends. It's not as long as liquor, because it's not as high in alcohol, but it is higher in sugar. But it is a wine as well, so it oxidizes. So my thing is the nose knows. So if you open that bottle and you smell it, it should smell good. It should smell like wine, herbs and nice. If it smells like a wet basement or wet newspaper, that musty smell, that means the wine inside oxidized. So and there's no timeline on that. It does last longer than wine. I'd say probably, and plus the more air that like this bottle here is down to here. So that the rest of this bottle is oxygen. So this is going to oxidize much faster than if I just pour a little bit off. So I would advise, and they make smaller bottles. So if you're going to home, even Martini and Rossi, they make these small bottles. I'd advise buying those. Because they will go bad. I'd say probably a month and a half is a general rule once you open it.
Should it be refrigerated?
No, that doesn't help it. It's all about the air inside. Once that wine gets exposed to oxygen, then it starts to oxygenate, and that's where that musty smells come from. Yeah. But like I said, the nose knows. So pop it open, and a lot of people say, especially with wine, oh, I can't tell bad wine from good. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. I guarantee you can. You open that bottle and smell it, you know. So, yep.
How long does an open wine bottle?
Open wine is about 3 to 4 days.
That's it?
Max, yeah.
Really?
Yep. Because there's very little alcohol. It's only about 13 to 14% generally. There's no sugar. If it's a Cabernet or Merlot, there's no sugar. So there's really nothing to stave off any bacteria. So once that oxygen hits it, it's going. Yeah, and the minute you open it, it starts to deteriorate. So even after that 3 or 4 days, it's not going to be the same as you had it. Yeah.
The good vermouth you cannot get in
Huntington you cannot. But I know, like Indiana, I picked up in Indiana. Yeah, you can buy it. It's available. But I think the Huntington store is not. Paul, what store did you go to? The Huntington? Yeah. Good questions. I love questions. I appreciate it very much. All right. So let's go on to the second cocktail here. So we gotta do a little housekeeping here, a little dishwashing. You guys didn't pay your bills, so you gotta wash the dishes now. So we're gonna use the same cocktail shaker. So if you could, just dump out in one of your empty glasses anything that's left in there. Yep. Anything you want. And then grab your water, do a little swish just to clean it out. Okay? In the pitcher. Should be in the pitcher there. Yeah, just give it a little swish. You're right, yes. You all figured it out. Dump your excess in that big bowl in the middle there. Yep. Everybody cleaned up? Oh, wait a minute here. While you're cleaning up, I'll talk about one thing a lot of people do, and I don't know, especially with vodka, I see this a lot. A A lot of people will store their vodka in the freezer. Once again, personal preference. I don't care if you do or not. What that does, though, is if you would pull this bottle of vodka out of the freezer and pour it into here for the cocktail, obviously that vodka is going to be very, very cold. And it's not going to dilute your ice, which you kind of want a little bit of dilution. You know, that water is kind of the glue that kind of binds everything together. So if you have a frozen vodka, just kind of know that that vodka is going to stand out more. Because and that alcohol, that taste is going to stand out more because it's going to melt your ice less. So once again, not good, not bad, whatever you want to do, but just that difference will be there for you. Okay. All right. Everybody ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. So the next drink we're making here is called the Vesper. There's a lot to this. So the one drink, the Negroni we made, is on the rocks. Okay. On the rocks means on ice. Pretty simple there. This one's going to be up. Okay. And up means there's a lot of confusion about up versus neat versus straight. Up means your cocktail is chilled and then strained into another glass, basically a stemmed glass. That means up. Okay, it has to be a stemmed glass because you got to hold it here. If you hold your drink here, your hand is hot. And there's no ice in here, remember? So it's going to heat your glass. So you can use champagne goblets, wine glasses, doesn't matter, but it has to be a stemmed glass. That's serving your drink up. So that's up versus rocks. And once again, personal preference. They make martinis. Martini on the rocks, martini up. Doesn't matter to me. You know, it's whatever you like. If you drink it on the rocks, obviously that ice is going to continue to melt, continue to dilute. It'll extend that cocktail. It'll change it, you know, as it will. But you're up. Your first drink's going to taste like your last drink, other than temperature change, because there's nothing else in there. There's no more ice. There's no other things that can change the flavor of that cocktail. So that's the main difference there between the up and on the rocks. And just for a side note, based on the bourbon, neat is no chilling, no anything. You just pour your liquor into a glass, generally served with a side of ice water. So if you want the purest taste from like a bourbon or a scotch, that's generally how people drink those. That's neat, with a little side of ice water to kind of, because once again, that water is the kind of the glue. So even as you're drinking straight bourbon, it kind of washes away, gets your flavors, gets it around your mouth. So that side of ice water is important. Okay. So the Vesper Martinis. Anybody familiar with the Vesper?
Yeah.
The story?
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool story.
Oh, this is James Bond.
This is James Bond, yes. James Bond. Anybody knows Casino Royale? So Ian Fleming back in 1953 wrote Casino Royale. So James Bond, if you notice on here, I didn't put a recipe on your placemat, because that's what James Bond told the bartender. So if James says it, it's got to be right, right?
Right.
So he says, give me 3 measures of Gordon's, 1 of vodka, half measure of Lillet, shake it very well until it's ice cold, then add a large thin slice of lemon peel. You got it? Everybody got it? All right. So that's what he did. Now, why he said, you know, shaken not stirred, why he's shaking this clear liquid, don't know. But once again, James says it's got to be right, right? So this Vesper cocktail is to be shaken, not stirred, even though it's going against the rules. And so we're going to follow James's order there. So, but before we start that, so we tasted the Gordons, we tasted that vodka. You're more than welcome to taste the vodka if you'd like. It's Tito's. It's out of Austin, Texas. Nice, clean, like I said, nice, clean, clear vodka. That's why I chose that. The interesting part about this is the Lillet. Has everybody ever tried Lillet?
No.
Lillet, it's the yellow, kind of the yellow on the bottom right. Give it a smell. A lot of orange. This is another wine-based spirit. So this is white wines made from the Bordeaux region of France. So Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc. So they make this, then they add, once again, a neutral grain spirit, as we've been talking about, to kind of fortify it. They actually call it fortified wine. And then they macerate it, just like they do gin and the Campari, with a lot of herbs, spices, primarily a lot of citrus. When you smell this, you get orange peel. I love this. I think Lillet is one of the underutilized alcohols out there, because it just smells so great. Give it a little taste.
Delicious. So is that considered a liqueur?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. You could drink this straight on the rocks if you wanted.
Yeah.
You know, nothing wrong with that. Yep. Now, once again, before we construct a cocktail, let's get a little geeky here. So we have Gordon's Gin. So Gordon's Gin is piney, alcohol, kind of astringent, big strong flavors. The vodka is kind of going to kick up those flavors, right? So now we have vodka and gin. You got a pretty powerful cocktail there. So you need something sweet, something floral, something citrus to counteract that. And that's where the Lillet, I think, fits in perfectly with this cocktail. So you get that balance. You're still going to get the Gordon's, because it's 3 parts Gordon's. So, and 1 part vodka, 1 part Lillet. If you want to put more Lillet in, go ahead. You know, it's your cocktail. But that's where that Lillet is going to shine with that. And Lillet, if you are a fan, we also make a Lillet Rouge and a Lillet Rosé. So red wine and rosé wine. So if you want to experiment there, and once again, they're available in all the state stores. So, okay. So let's make our Vesper. So we're going to start the same way. So let's take our ice, pour that in. I ran out of ice. That's okay. So pour that in, and then we're going to strain off the water. We're not, so just strain off any of the water. Actually, I'm going to cheat. Okay. And then, once again, the Gordon's.
Don't twist it.
It's supposed to be 3 parts Gordon, so if you want to estimate 3 parts, we're going to pour that into your ice.
Okay, get it off.
And then your Tito's, 1 part. So however much. Yeah, there.
Drop again.
Anybody need help?
No, maybe just this out.
I gave you enough to taste too. Pour everything in your shaker. Your shaker. We're building the shaker. Yep. Everything's getting built into your shaker. So however much Gordon's you put in 1/3 of the Tito's. Okay? We're estimating here. So your Gordon's was the gin. That was the top one. The middle one's your Tito's. That's your vodka. So put 1/3 of that in. Okay? And then your Lillet, the same thing. Put 1/3 of however much Gordon's you put in. Put your Lillet, or put more in if you like it. Okay? Now I'm hearing people shake, and you're doing okay.
Is it okay?
You're not doing great. Here's why. Here's why. So you want to put your cap on. Make sure it's seated all the way around, or you're going to wear your cocktail, which, trust me, I haven't worn many cocktails in my days. Put your cap on, and then you can do 1 or 2 hands, whatever you like. Shake it. We got to hear a rattle. You're wanting that. What you're doing is you're agitating the liquor. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I was just going to say that. That's good. Because not only is your stainless steel getting super cold, every drop of alcohol touching that stainless steel is getting cold. So it's less water, less dilution. So once you feel it get cold, you know you're there. So then just take off the little cap on top and strain her into your Vesper. Strain her into the martini glass here. Now go slow. We don't know how much liquor's in there, but you're going to see it's cloudy. Everything you put in there is clear, but it's pretty cloudy. Number 1, that Lillet has sugar in it. So that sugar's going to kind of, but it'll clear up. Now a key component of that, we talked a little bit about this before we were ready to drink, your twist, okay? This is just the lemon peel. This is not lemon juice. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but what you want to do is take it, and don't do it yet, but you're going to twist it, okay? Twist it right over your glass, because what you're doing, if you can see it, it's hard to see in the dark. You're blasting that with, got feel there. You're blasting that with oil. You're blasting that with lemon oil. And then before you put your twist in, you want to just grab your glasses. This seems minor, and just rub the rind around the edge of the glass. Once again, you're putting more lemon oil on your glass. Then put your twist in. So you have a beautiful cocktail there. And when you try it, hopefully you're going to get a pretty big punch of lemon. So even that little tiny bit of oil really makes a difference because it sits on top. So every drink that you take of that, you're going to get a little bit of that lemon zest. Then you have some on the rim as well.
So James Bond knew what he was talking about.
James Bond. And what happened was, so he told the bartender that, and he says, I just made a new drink. I'm going to patent that whenever I find the name. And I'm going to read this here because I forgot what it was. But,
it was the lady.
Right. He said, at the time of his first introduction to the beautiful Vesper Lind, he asked her name. And a quote from James, I can't drink the health of your new frock without knowing your Christian name. After learning her name, Vesper Lind, Bond decides that this is perfect for his recently invented cocktail. He tells Vesper that his search for a name is over if she will permit him to use his drink after her. And the Vesper was born. So, kind of neat, kind of neat. Yeah. And I believe that it's only mentioned 1 time in the book. This cocktail, is blown up over, 50, 60 years as the James Bond Vesper cocktail. And a lot of people mispronounce it as Vespa, Vespa is the Italian scooter. Vesper is Vesper Lynn. Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you. Yeah. So once again, so we'll get away from the please continue to drink, continue to have fun. The cocktails, we're talking about martinis and Manhattans and margaritas. They all kind of stem from this. So if you want to make a martini, a straight martini, gin and sweet vermouth. Put it in your shaker, strain it in there. If they want to do it on the rocks, you can do it on the rocks. So it's anything martini or Manhattans the same way. You can use sweet vermouth. If you do this with a nice whiskey or bourbon for Manhattan, it's fantastic. All these skills, all the equipment that you have can be utilized in so many different ways. It's not just these two cocktails. So, but the key, like I said, whenever you want to pull this out, or whatever you think about pulling this out, the key is you want cold and fast, because you don't want that ice to melt too much. So that's the key. So if you're doing a margarita and you want to do it up, put your sours in there, your tequila, your sour, your triple sec, mix it up, a little bit of lime, boom, you got a great margarita. You don't have to go through all the frozen blending and all that stuff. Boom, you got it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Do you ever use grenadine for a martini?
For martini, no. I've never used grenadine for martini. Manhattans I have. To get that sweetness, but I've never used it for martini. No. I mean, interesting to try. Yeah, they get that like that cherry flavor. Yep. And I mentioned dry vermouth. I don't have that here. It didn't have it in the cocktails, but it's basically the same thing. It's a wine based. It's just a white wine instead of red wine, and they use herbs and botanicals there. Now, as we talked about dry gin, maybe you've heard, give me a martini extra dry. Give me a dry martini. Kind of the same thing, kind of the same family there, in that the martini, when people say that, that means they don't want a lot of vermouth. So you think nothing can be added to a gin to make it dry, so if you add vermouth to it, it's not really a gin anymore. So it's kind of a way to remember that. So if you ask for a dry martini, they're still going to give you a little bit of vermouth, because that's a martini. If you just want gin on the rocks, they'll give you gin on the rocks, but a dry martini is gin with a little bit of vermouth. So the standard recipe is a 1/4 ounce of vermouth. If you want to dry, they might give you like 1/8 of an ounce. Okay, and I actually had a person where I worked, they wanted, I called it a forkful. So I would fill my shaker up with ice, and I'd put the vermouth in there, stir it up, and then strain all the liquid off. So all the vermouth and everything. So basically I just seasoned the ice. Then I pour the gin in, and done. So I just had and it hit it. Yes, sir.
My brother's definition of a dry martini is to pour the gin in and stand about 6 feet away and yell vermouth at it.
That's a perfect way, yeah, that's a great technique. Yep. Absolutely, yep. I like that. Yep. So yeah, literally all these techniques and equipment that you have now can be extrapolated. You can mess around with garnishes, you can do twists of orange. If you want to, I don't know about fire hazards, but you can actually light the oil. Have you ever seen that? As you squeeze it, you light it, boom, you get like a caramelized onion or a caramelized orange flavor. There's so much you can do. Just Google it. There's a million recipes out there. Yes, sir.
I have a friend that drinks vodka a lot.
Okay.
And he'll make the mix and put it in the freezer.
Okay.
Does that lose anything to it?
A little bit, because once again, is he putting vermouth in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that will dissipate. That'll go, more bland. Won't go bad, but it'll just lose a lot of its flavor. And then if he's not, depending on how he drinks it afterwards, if he's just pulling that out and drinking it with no ice, then he's not getting that water to dilute it, which is a good thing. It's a good thing and bad thing. We don't want too much dilution, but we need a little bit to kind of create that cocktail, that homogeneous solution. We need that water in there. So if he's not doing that, then he's kind of missing that key part of it.
He uses some kind of special lemon juice, just mixes the lemon juice.
They're all.
Okay. Then he's making limoncello then. He's making limoncello then. Yeah, limoncello, that's different, that's a liqueur. So that's sweet lemon juice. It kind of is it called fortified? So it's fortified with vodka. Yeah, that's perfectly fine, because limoncello should be served ice cold, straight out of the bottle. Because that's not a cocktail, that's just a straight liqueur that he makes from scratch, which is a lot of fun. A lot of fun to do that. Limoncello. Yep, it's Limon C-E-L-L-O. Yep. Yeah, it's an Italian liqueur.
Oh, Italian.
Italian, yep. Yeah, but I was telling somebody, I don't know who I was talking to, one of my favorite flavor combinations is lemon and coffee. So if I eat like a lemon cake with a cup of coffee, I love that. And that's what limoncello is. You just drink a little bit 'cause it's super sweet. So you sip that, you sip your espresso, oh, forget about it, it's awesome. 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 Yeah.
So if I go to a restaurant, can I ask for a Vesper Martini?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do they know what I want?
They should. They should. Yep. They absolutely should. Yep. Yep.
You should
Yep.
report
So,
that.
Yeah.
what are the measures again of that?
The Vesper, it's three parts Gordon's. So
Oh,
basically,
three.
depending on your glass,
Yeah, 3.
I'd say probably 2 ounces of Gordon's, an ounce of vodka, an ounce of Lillet, to make it simple.
Okay.
You know, but 3 to 1 to 1 is what James said. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So cocktails can be fun, you know, and they're great to experiment with. So if you're, you know, hopefully the weather's turning, you want to do a party outside, fire up the grill, do some cocktails. Do 1 or 2, that's all you need to do. You don't need to do 100 of them. You don't need to be a bartender. You don't need to be behind the bar all night. You want to have fun with your friends. Pick 1 or 2. You know, you can make a watermelon martini. Get watermelon, zip it up in a blender, have vodka, boom, you made a watermelon martini. Simple, do a nice little wedge of watermelon as a garnish. Beautiful, you know? So just have some fun. Fruits, we're getting into infusion season, so yeah, zip it up, puree it, good to go. Whoop. I don't want to go over my thing's gonna beat if I do that. But yeah, I'm gonna watch that. But yeah, have fun. Do things on the rocks. Now if it's hot outside, you're kind of in a dilemma. Because if you drink a martini and it's 100 degrees on your patio, it's gonna get warm. There's nothing you can do about that. And if you drink, you know, a rocks and it's 100 degrees, it's gonna melt. There's nothing you can do about that. But, you know, just choose wisely. Once again, go small.
Put the umbrella up.
There you go, I like that. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. And just like with food, you know, we all saw it today. Robert, Dante, and Paul, the food was beautiful. I don't know how it tasted. I didn't taste any of it, but it tasted beautiful. Make a beautiful cocktail. The garnishes are everything sometimes. Get this long lid, this long lemon peel, and if you want to wedge a watermelon, and just anything you can do to really enhance the appeal, because the drink itself is pretty simple. A little bit of that, on ice, you're good. The way to wow your friends and your family, and yourselves even. Wow yourselves, you deserve it. Go with the garnishes. Spend a little time on the garnishes, you know. You can rim glasses with chocolate. I'm sure you've seen that. There's a million things you can do. A million things. So yeah, just the key is to have fun. You learn a couple techniques, just like cooking. You learn a couple techniques, and then the sky's the limit. You can do anything. So, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. And once again, don't forget your rest of your cocktail kits. Yep.